Without further delay, please welcome Kitzzy Avilés, who is Distinguished Toastmasters and immediate past director who wants to empower you to achieve excellence. She is passionate about leadership in and out of the Toastmasters as a way to continue to grow her skills and empower others to unlock potential. Today, we'll explore how together. With that, please welcome Kitzzy, Empowering Leaders. Kitzzy, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Mahi. If we could stop sharing the screen at this time, that'd be great. Welcome everyone to our Empowering Leaders session. I'm really excited to have all of you here today. And I want to learn just a little bit about who's here before we get started. I posted a question in the chat, and if I could have the moderators also repost it. As we mentioned, this will be an interactive session. So at any time, feel free to post questions or comments. And starting with, why are you here today? We would love to hear that. You also will see a poll on the screen right now. We're trying to get an idea of what kind of leadership we have here. So go ahead and check all that apply just to get a sense for us of what kind of leadership experience we have. We'll wait a few seconds for this just to get a feel for it. Looks like we have a lot of club officers here today. Fantastic. Some district leaders and a lot of members as well, which is perfect. Oh, and some mentors. I love that. All right, here's our results. So we have a lot of club officers here today, some club members. Fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing the results. Thank you so much for taking part in this poll. It's always great to see who we have with us today. So today we're gonna talk about how to empower leaders. Before we get into the why, we will talk about, before we get to the how, we'll talk about the why. So why should we empower leaders? Why do we even try? Well, Toastmasters is where leaders are made. And it's really important that we find ways to help our leaders develop those skills and become leaders themselves. And perhaps selfishly for some of us who are currently in a leadership role, we are looking to find our successor who's going to take over our role. And this is why we're talking about this today. So we can ensure a smooth transition, even though it's a little bit early in the year, it's never too early to start. And I'll talk about why it's important to start now. How do we empower leaders? We can do this in 3 phases. First, identifying them, nurturing them, and supporting them. Let's look at each of these one at a time. First, we want to identify leaders for any particular role that you have open. So let's say that, for example, you have your current president and you want to find someone to take over for president for next year, because perhaps you have higher aspirations for yourself. Think about who in your club could step into that role. And you can think about this specifically. What about them makes them a good leader for that role? And you can think about this in a couple of ways. One, what are some of the transferable skills that they currently have from their past experience? So for example, you could look at your vice presidents of education, membership of a PR, perhaps they have some skills that would have prepared them to be ready for this new role. Or you can also look at their goals. What is it that they want to develop that this role might help them do that? If you keep the member in mind and what they want to develop, what's in it for them, it's a lot easier to find your successor. So when you think about who might take over and who you might ask, and you do have to ask, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. When you ask them, you're gonna wanna tell them why them, why specifically them. So write down their name, write down the why, so that's clear in your head. Once you've identified the why, the who and the why, then it's time to nurture the leaders. A lot of the times when we ask someone to be a leader, if we put a blanket statement out there and say, hey, we have this open role, who wants it? Oftentimes we just get crickets, because a lot of people think, oh, they're not talking about me. I'm not a leader. That's not about me. Or I'm not ready. They don't have the confidence. So this is why we have to nurture them so that they are ready for that role. And we can do this a couple of ways. One is finding them opportunities that can help them develop the skills they need to succeed in their next role. For example, if you're trying to get someone to be VP of Education, and perhaps part of that role is doing a contest, you could have them be contest chair or take on another role in the current year to prepare them for that and gain their confidence. Feedback is super important during this phase. You want to let the leader know what are they doing really well so that they continue to do that and they build their confidence, but also what can they do better to improve, to continue to improve their skills. And finally, recognition is super important. We really want to let them know that we appreciate their efforts. And if they are taking on these other leadership roles that's going to prepare them to the bigger role, that is an accomplishment in of itself. And we want to celebrate all of that. We need to let them know they're on the right path and that they should keep going. Okay, so now you've identified your potential successor. You have nurtured them by giving them opportunities, feedback, and recognition. Now they've said, yes, I will take this on. Your job is not done yet. Now we want to support that leader in their new role. First, encouragement. Think about the role that you're currently in and maybe some of the challenges that you've had. There have been times when you have thought, oh my God, what did I sign up for? I can't do this. But you could, and you did it. So providing them encouragement when they hit these rough spot is important by sharing your own personal stories and how you handle that particular challenge or something similar. That will really go a long way. Consider mentoring them. This could be a short mentorship, perhaps through the transition period, or it could be a longer mentorship throughout their entire role and beyond. But either way, it's good to have someone who's been there, done that, who can give them some advice and share some stories with them of how they handled it so they can make their own decisions. And finally, you've got to sign up. Be their biggest supporter. When they're doing an event of their own, volunteer and be part of that success for them. Now, all of this, I want to emphasize that you have to ask. As I mentioned earlier, when we just put out a blanket statement and say, hey, we have these roles, who wants it? A lot of people think to themselves, I'm not ready for that. That doesn't mean me. She's not talking about me, right? So it's really important that you ask specific people. This actually happened to me recently. I'm Sergeant at Arms at one of my clubs, one of the many, and I'm trying to cut back on some things because one of my roles now is going to be recruiting district leaders. We put out a statement that I was stepping down. We're having elections because we are 6-month terms. Who's interested? Nothing. So as officers, we brainstorm who could take on this role, who has the potential or who has the desire. I reached out specifically to that person, told them why they would be a good fit for this role, what they would learn from this role, why it would be a benefit to them. Had a phone call with them to explain anything further, answer any questions, and now they're in and they're super excited about it. So you definitely have to ask those questions. All right, so to recap, before we get into our Q&A and the rest of our panel, I actually urge you to do this right now. Grab a sheet of paper and start thinking through this. If you have a role you're trying to fill, write down some names of who could potentially fill that role and identify right next to it, why them. Be very specific because when you go ask them, you need to tell them this. Identify on your sheet of paper, what opportunities can you provide this person to prepare them for the next role? And then how are you going to support them in their new role? Go ahead and think about that and we will get back to that towards the end of our workshop and might ask a few of you to share with us a few ideas. But at this time, I'd like to bring up a couple of other district leaders to help me answer your questions and provide different perspectives because this is a journey that we're all in together and we all have different ways to approaching it. So at this time, I'm going to ask the rest of our panelists to turn on their cameras and join me on stage as I introduce them. And this is my contact information, which I will bring up at the end as well. But for now, I'm going to introduce my panelists. So we've got with us Katrina Myers, who is a past division director most recently, but she's been an area director. I think she's probably held most club leadership roles. I know she's been president and currently VPE with me in another club. And she is last year's Toastmaster of the Year. So she has a lot of experience to share with all of you today. And she has an interesting journey because she started and kind of got pulled into additional roles a little earlier. So it's a great journey for her. And we have Tony De Leon here, who is a past district governor and who I had the pleasure of serving with as logistics manager during my district director year, and who has been a source of wisdom and advice for me throughout my entire journey as well. And I don't see her camera, but I'm sure she's coming on soon. Noemi Gonzalez, who is a past district director and my personal mentor, whose fault this all is. She got me into this, but that's a good thing. She definitely followed this process, identified me early on, and nurtured me along the way, and has mentored me all along the way. I invited these three to join me because they have different experiences and perspectives, and they've all been part of my own district leadership journey. And I would like to start. For one, feel free to start posting your questions in the chat. Mahi is going to be collecting those, and she's going to be coming on screen in just a moment as well to ask questions of the panelists. But I'm going to start with one question for all the panelists to just kick things off. And I asked them to prepare. If they could share with us in about 1 to 2 minutes their biggest takeaway from their leadership journey. And we will start with Katrina.
Thank you so much, Kitzzy. The biggest takeaway that I have is you're never ready. You're just not. People are going to ask you to do things and you feel like, wow, I could never do that. That would never be for me. But you're never going to be to the place where you feel like you're 100% ready to take on a challenge. The first club officer role that I was asked to do is the VP of membership. I had been a member of my corporate club for 1 year and I'd given exactly one speech. Speaking terrified me. And I thought, I'm not qualified. I've given one speech in this club. How can I be the VP of membership? But I had a mentor who kind of came alongside me from the beginning and really encouraged me and said, you can do this. And we have your back. And if you have any questions, you can come to me and I am supporting you. And I kind of realized at that point, Toastmasters is a leadership lab. None of us know what we're doing the first time we take a role. That's just a little secret between me and you. We don't know, but you don't know until you learn it. And so taking on new things and challenging yourself and doing things that are terrifying is one way to continue to step outside that comfort zone. Giving my first speech, by the time I was done, I was gasping for breath because when I get nervous, I forget to breathe. But in leadership, it's the same thing. You don't have to know what you're doing in the beginning. You will learn along the way. It's okay to have mistakes. Your team has your back. Just say yes, and you never know what might happen. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Katrina. Tony, would you like to go next?
Yes. My leadership journey started at my club. I was a shy sergeant at arms, and the club decided that that's the role you really need to hone in on. And before you know it, I became club president. The club helped me build confidence. And I have always had good role models in Toastmasters. I remember our area director coming in, and I felt I have something to say. I have something that I can offer to other clubs. And at the same time, I can overcome the shyness and stepping out into another situation. And how that relates for me at work, I'm a quiet chemist, but I do a lot of advocating now for new equipment, or when the salespeople, the professional salespeople that know how to chat and talk and joke, I could be on the same level with them, because before it was intimidating to work with some folks like that at work. But the success factor is people now ask for me. Tony, can you give my client the tour of the laboratory? And they're excited because Tony can really, so that's a nice pat on the back, and that's a nice benefit of Toastmasters. And for me, Toastmasters is a lifestyle, because you can also use this in your personal life, of course. I have 2 daughters, both married. I was father of a bride. It's great life skills. And if you don't take that step, you never know what your potential is. In my, when I was district governor, my theme was unlocking our potential, because we all work with one another. And even today, working with our current leaders, I never stop learning, and I continue enjoying my journey. Kitzzy.
Thank you so much, Tony. Noemi, would you share your biggest takeaway?
Yes, there are actually three. And of course, we love threes. So I'm going to go with all three of them. I would say if you want to achieve a kind of transformation of fulfillment in your personal and professional life, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. And the best way to do that is by leading a team. And Toastmasters gives you wonderful opportunities for that. And that's the kind of growth that you achieve through Toastmasters leadership that you can take into your personal life and your professional life. Because you have to, in order to be doing it effectively, you have to get to know people well. You have to understand what their motivations and fears are. And when you do that regularly throughout an entire year, you will become a more fulfilled person, a more effective person everywhere you go. If you want to know more about that, talk to me about it. Number two, and I don't know if you know this, but in Toastmasters, in the Toastmasters program, everyone is supposed to serve at least at the club level once. Everyone is invited to lead at least once. Actually, there are more opportunities in the program, but serving at the club level, I would say, would be a great way of doing it. And in order for that to happen, number three, if you're already a club officer or have already served as a club officer, make sure that you get out of your own way and move on to district leadership. Embrace greater challenges and open the door for members who haven't served to serve. Be their mentor. If you're not ready to serve at the district level yet, be a mentor to a new member to become a club. And oh my God, the kind of growth that you'll see in your life, in any aspect of your life, will be amazing. Those are my three lessons. If you want to talk more about it, let me know. Kitzzy.
Thank you so much, Noemi. And I realized that I gave this little presentation, but I didn't share my lesson. So I'll share mine really quickly as well. I think for me, as someone who's obsessed with leadership, I say this is all Noemi's fault that she got me into this, but it wasn't much arm twisting. I wanted this, but sometimes but I still learned a ton. And one of those big things that I learned was the importance of being vulnerable. When I was program quality director with Stephanie, she's the perfect example of an authentic, vulnerable leader. And I remember her getting up in our meetings and saying things that had gone wrong behind the scenes. And I always remember telling myself, hey, it doesn't matter if things go wrong, no one's gonna know but you. But she was telling everyone. And I realized that that was so important for people in the room to understand that we, as Katrina mentioned, we don't have this all figured out. We're all learning. And being a vulnerable leader and making it okay and safe for your team to struggle, to ask for help is super important and makes you a better leader. And I didn't fully understand that until she demonstrated that. And I really saw how people followed her and how people feel more comfortable taking risks and failing because they learned from it and they had a safety net to support them. So that's my biggest takeaway, along with what Noemi said about getting out of your own way and delegating. I always have trouble delegating at first until I realized that me delegating means giving someone else one of those opportunities that I talked about to nurture them for their next role. So always think about all of this from the perspective of the other person. My goal right now is to try to get some of you hopefully to apply for district leadership, but that's my goal. That's not your goal. And so if I keep in mind, what is your goal and how can I help you achieve it? Even if that doesn't meet my goal, that's still a win for me. So think about it that way. Who can you give opportunities to in your club, whether or not they take on the role that you want? Because if you take the time and nurture them, they will eventually be ready for that. All right,
said,
now
Kitzzy.
I'm gonna, thank you, Mahi. And welcome, Mahi. Mahi is our wonderful moderator. She has been great behind the scenes to help me prepare for this. She's a current area director, so she has taken the plunge herself. And she has our first question from, actually, do you want to share anything really quickly, Mahi, before we get into the questions from your own journey so far?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me tell you that I love the badge that you're wearing, Empower, and that's the theme of the session today. So, I kind of echo with all the panelists, and I see there are a couple of relevant, comments about fear of failure and addressing the large crowd and taking the lead and all that. So I want to first pose the question that came in through the chat box. And that question is, what are some ways of overcoming stage fright?
I would love to chime in on that if I may.
Go for it.
But because I used to have the worst stage fright. One of the things that someone once told me is your body reacts like physiologically to fear and excitement the same way. So by saying, oh man, I'm so scared, I'm so nervous, you're basically psyching yourself out of giving a good speech. Instead, tell yourself and anyone who asks, I'm really excited to give this speech today. I'm really excited to share what I have prepared, whether that's a speech, whether that's table topics. And then whenever anyone asks you, hey, are you nervous about your speech today? No, I am excited about giving a speech today. And then your body actually takes away some of that nervousness, and it's a psychological thing, but it has worked for me. And it's one of the things that I tell myself, because everyone knows you're nervous to speak in public. Everyone's nervous to do that, or most people, I shouldn't say everyone. But a lot of people can relate to that. And just tell yourself, I'm excited. And then just tell other people, I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I can't wait to do this. And you'll be surprised that little tiny shift will have for you. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
I love it. That positive perspective always change your thinking, right?
Absolutely. Love it. I just want to add to that. Remember, if you mess up, more than likely, you're the only one who will know. That's what helps me to keep that in mind. Mahi, what's our next question?
We have another question. In times of change, there may be resistance. As a new leader, what's a strategy to get everyone on the same bus? I'll repeat again. In times of change, there may be resistance. As a new leader, what's a strategy to get everyone on the same bus? Who wants to take?
Did I see Noemi's hand? Go for it, Noemi.
I would say, first of all, look at the positives of change yourself. Sometimes we may be resistant to change ourselves, and it's very difficult to get everyone on board when you're resisting it yourself. The other one is see what everyone's motivations and fears are and address them, because people will only take a step into the unknown once they know that you're understanding and that you're giving them a sort of roadmap for where to go when things get scary. And also kind of go back and remind people about when they faced change in the past and how great it was for them. I think sometimes we try to avoid fear or avoid discomfort instead of embracing it as part of our growth. But if we constantly remind ourselves that the growth that matters, that transformation that matters is part of discomfort or is a consequence of discomfort, then people will start taking those small steps towards that change that is necessary.
That's great. Thank you, Naomi. Okay, I have another question, and this is related to finding mentors and mentee. How would you recommend finding mentors / mentee outside of your club?
I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. I can address this a little bit, but I'd love to hear Noemi, because I feel like Noemi is just really good at mentorship. It's one of those things that I've always admired about her. I don't know if Tony also has some ideas about this, because he's been around for a long time.
And I'm sorry, I got distracted reading a question. So what was this question again?
It's about mentorship. So how do we find mentors outside of our club? I think you start with your club at first, but I think it's one of the things is going to events like this, seeing speakers that you admire that are leading the way that you want to lead, that are doing the things that you want to do. And it starts with a friendship. I always feel like mentorship isn't just a one-way street, right? It's not like, hey, Noemi, you're going to be my mentor. it has to be something that we both agree on. And so sometimes it's Noemi reaching out to me and saying, hey, Kitzzy, I want to mentor you through this. I believe in you, and I want to help you achieve this. Or it might be coming to someone like Tony and say, hey, Tony, you've got this great experience. I really would love for you to mentor me through this because I value your advice and your expertise in this area. So I think that's one way. Tony, I'd love to hear any additional insights that you have on how you found some of your mentors.
Really, I like to watch people, other leaders. And for example, I am taking my skills of Toastmasters outside of Toastmasters. I am a member of the San Francisco Gem and Mineral Society, and they are grooming me to be the next club president. This is a club of 400 people. So it's not exactly like Toastmasters. And we're in a time of pandemic, but talking to the members, trying to understand the personalities. And that's my challenge, is trying to understand who these 400 members are. I've only been a member of this club for 4 years, but they identified me as the next leader. They saw that I wasn't shy. They saw I had reasonable technical skills. But then I need to reach out to Wanda, who's the current club president, and Bob, who's the vice president, to find out, what does the club need? How can my skills be in alignment? And will you be there to help me when I am club president? So, so I know I'm seeing the support. So really asking, and I have many other members that have put their hand in and offer to be committee members. So it gives me confidence to take that next step.
And I want to add, Kitzzy, to the question, to the answer that, you know, finding a mentor and mentee outside of your club shouldn't be difficult, because if you attend all these sessions outside of your club meetings, then you will be exposed to a lot of leaders, like, you know, like our panelists today, and Kitzzy yourself. You know, people can reach out separately via email and ask if they can be your mentor. And besides Toastmaster, there are other professional social medias like LinkedIn, where they can find, mentor in their own expertise as well from professional career.
Awesome. I wanted to say one last thing, is that you don't need to have just one mentor either. So think about, what are your goals that you want this mentor to help you with, and then seek people that have expertise in those areas.
We have another question, Kitzzy.
Oh, okay, go for it.
The question is, I know an excellent Toastmaster candidate, but she can't see how discomfort will end up to fulfillment. What do you suggest? I love this question. I guess most of the Toastmasters have this issue.
Yeah, it's a common one. Noemi, go for it.
I would say mentor them through the fear. A lot of times it's basically, people say, I don't have it in me, I don't know how to do it. And if you have done it before and you're encouraging them to take the next step, offer to be there for them. And not only mentor them, but actually be their sponsor. Be there to support them physically. Well, maybe not physically with the pandemic, but if they're doing something on Zoom, offer to be part of their team, not just offering guidance, but being there to have their back. I would say that would be the easiest way to have a greater impact in someone's leadership journey. Be there for them, mentor them, and do it also in a structured way.
I have a follow-up question, Naomi, since you're on it. And Kitzzy is your mentee. But the question is, how did mentorship, being a mentor, help you progress at the Toastmaster and, in your career? And not from mentee perspective, of course, we all see it from the mentee perspective, from also as a mentor perspective.
If I can start and then switch it over to Kitzzy, I would say, my goodness, first of all, in order for me to be able to show someone the way, I need to make sure that I remember all the different detours. And that forces me to go into that space again, to live through a past experience and reinforce that knowledge. But then the greatest lesson is the fact that you're literally having a life-changing impact in someone else. Because whether it's someone gaining more confidence in public speaking or gaining more confidence leading a project or a team, those are things that stay with people, and you are an integral part of that. That's probably the biggest one. But if you're a bit of a narcissist, there's no greater way of having influence over your entire community and surrounding than doing it through mentorship, because you're enabling other people to create the kind of changes that you would like to see while empowering them and doing about half of the work.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Kitzzy, do you have anything to add? Or any of the panelists?
Yes. It's really funny. I feel like until recently, I never actually had an official mentee. Like I've mentored people, I feel, unofficially, but this year I took on official mentees, and I feel like it has upped my own game, because now I feel like I need to set a good example for them. So when I feel like I might want to cancel a speech, I think about, well, what message is that sending my mentee, and things like that. So I really think being a mentor ups your own game, because as Noemi said, you have to be on your A game to be able to remember those experiences to share with them, but also lead by example. Does anybody else wanted to chime in on this one? I know we have a bunch of questions coming in. Okay, let's go to the next question. My thing is slowing here, but go for it.
Yeah. The next question is, why would someone want to be a district leader? What are the characteristics best suited to be a district leader?
I'm going to ask Katrina to share this one, because I feel like she got thrusted into district leadership a little bit ahead of her plan, probably.
Yes, definitely. And I just, for anyone who doesn't know, 2 years ago, midway about February, end of February, I was asked to fill in as an area director for an area that had lost their area director. And for anyone that doesn't know, that's kind of the tail end of the year. So I've missed all of the pre-training at the beginning and felt like, well, you want me to step in and basically run an area contest? Yeah, that's a lot. But the reason why I said yes is because the division director who asked me had already started to build a relationship with me. I was the club president for my club at the time, and the division director had started to build a relationship with me already, and had been encouraging and kind of mentoring me in a way that I didn't realize that's what he was doing. And when I said yes, I realized I became part of this family. So all of the other area directors were super supportive. I needed volunteers to be judges and all of this kind of stuff. I was stepping in late. We had basically 2 weeks to plan an area contest by the time we found the venue. And everyone just said yes. Everyone was super supportive. And so why would you want to be a district leader? For the experience, to build relationships. I have met some amazing people through this experience that I'm still friends with. I still grab coffee with, we text, we keep in touch. So it's the relationships that you build, and then it's the leadership skills that you don't expect. Like I never expected to learn how to delegate well to people I didn't know. So I'm asking people to do things for me that don't know me. And that is a huge skill, because when in the office, I was promoted to this role, and now I'm asking senior leaders way above my pay grade to do things for me, and doing that in a way that they actually respond to me. That's something that I learned as an area director. And then I had planned on being an area director the following year. And then 2 days before our first meeting was kind of thrown into the division director role. But it's like saying yes to those kind of things has been one of the best things that I think I've ever done for my confidence and for my career, and just building those transferable skills that I need to be able to excel in my career.
Awesome. I think I saw Tony's hand. Since Noemi's spoken a lot, let's give Tony, which we have so much to share, but I want to give Tony a chance too.
Perfect. I see the question comes from Tasha, and I remember being the marketing officer and starting a club at Walmart.com, and Tasha wanting to be a district leader, and that following year as district governor. And I know many people are on the fast track and want to learn as much as possible, and I respect that. And then there's other folks that want to step back. And remember, when you're in a leadership position, you might not always be an official mentor to people, but people are watching. Are they seeing that you're enjoying the process? Are you reaching out to people? And not to air grievances in public. So one of my takeaways for district leadership is the networking and learning to trust people. And to be honest, there was always conflict. And that's something I needed to learn, how to do conflict resolution. And, you know, if you didn't step into that, everything's hunky-dory at work, and you've never learned these skills, then it's really a panic attack at work. But I've done it in district leadership where we can take those chances and develop those skills. And if we're uncomfortable, we have committee members, you know, the high performance leadership. We have people we can turn to and help us work our way through this. And I didn't die. I grew. And want to remind, it's perfectly normal to be uncomfortable, fearful of things you don't know. But then once you've gone through it, you have a lot of experience. You have a voice to share with others. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. I love that. Did you have anything different to add, Noemi? Or we
just really quickly, and that is to say that area director, division director, club growth, and all of the other positions up to district director, I never wanted to do them. Not change a single thing. It is in my entire life, that's the greatest things I've ever done. And it's just not easy, but oh my God, like I said, I wouldn't change it. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Noemi. I think we had time for maybe one more question, Mahi.
Yes, and it's very related question to the previous one. We heard conflict resolution and creativity and other characteristic. One question is, what are some tips to be more creative as leader? And what are some ways to foster creativity and innovation in your club or team?
Awesome. I want to start on this one first, and then I'll see if anybody has additional things. I think this goes back to creating a safe space and making it clear to people that this is a place, as Katrina mentioned, it's a leadership lab, and take risks, and it's safe to fail. As Tony mentioned, you're not going to die. This is not life and death. There might be certain things we want to make sure that get done. For example, we want to, do our taxes, things like that. So identify what are the things that you have to do, what are the things that are nice to do, but ultimately keep the member in mind. If you keep the member experience in mind, then you can do anything and really encourage your team to try new things. I think the hardest thing is that sometimes people feel like, oh, well, we've always done it this way, so I have to do it that way. But you're taking on this role for that 1 year or 6 months. And while you do want to keep in mind that you are basically on a relay race and you have the club for that 1 year, and then you're going to hand it off to someone else, and ideally you leave it off a little bit better than you found it, you can try some new things. Just keep in mind that, is it in the betterment of the members versus just something you want to do for yourself? So I think if you keep the club in mind, you can try all kinds of things and make it safe for your team to be like, okay, that didn't work out, but we tried it and here's what we learned from it. And then you can continue on from there. Any additional comments from the panelists on this one? I think this is a super important question.
I just want to say, you're not doing this by yourself. So it's not like you have to be more creative as a leader. It's not like you have to do something by yourself to help foster creativity and innovation. You have a team, and it's not just your club officer team. You might have some members that are in your club who aren't part of that team, who are super involved. Bring them in, be like, hey, we're going to brainstorm some ways to be more creative in our meetings. Whoever wants to attend the meeting, this is the day, this is the time, come and let's brainstorm together. There are no bad ideas. We just try different things. And I've definitely been challenged to try things that I'm like, I really don't think I want to do that. It's not going to work. But the team was like, no, let's try this. And I'm like, okay, fine, I guess we'll try it. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but that's part of being a flexible leader, is learning to do things that you don't think are good, because maybe that might push you outside of your comfort zone, and you might learn something from trying something new. You never know. I mean, you might not, but you might. And that's just one way that I've found, is listen to the team and do things that you don't necessarily think are good ideas, because they might actually be good ideas.
We have one question which is relevant to the current situation. I would like to pose that question here. What are the unique thoughts and insights to build and maintain positive energy throughout the club year?
And you wanna kick off on that? I've been talking a lot, so Tony, go for it.
Celebrate one another. You know, go to your distinguished club plan, figure out when your club birthday party, and try to get everybody involved. Recognize what we're doing and sticking together. And at the same time, invite friends and family to join in on the celebration, because they may be your new club members. New members are the lifeblood of a club.
Awesome. Does anybody want to chime in?
Anyone else? I think this will definitely be our last question. So get your last thoughts in. Noemi, go for it.
I would say one of the reasons we joined Toastmasters is because we say we want to be more effective communicators, right? And then we discover leadership and we say we also want to be very strong leaders. What we're really saying with both things is we want to be better with other people. And so at the end of the day, to create positive energy and be creative, don't lose sight of that. Sometimes, you know, we get fixated on goals, and goals are great and we can celebrate them at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, just cherish every relationship that you're building with members and with your club members. Just be supportive, just listen to the fears, listen to the struggles, be understanding, show empathy. And I feel, because this is my experience, that is when everyone will be at their happiest.
Awesome.
And I'll just add, failing is okay. You don't have to succeed at everything you try. The first time we did an online speech contest, we learned a lot of things from doing them online. And then we kept learning and we kept getting better and better each one that we did. And by the time we got to the district, I felt like we had it down. But one way to stay positive about that is we didn't say, oh man, we didn't do so great, let's not do these again. We said, okay, how can we build on this to be better in the future? And just constantly looking forward instead of looking back. Yeah, maybe my club, we've lost a lot of members. What are we going to do? Stay with that core that you have and make it engaging for them. Ask them, what do you want to get out of this? And then start building from there. So the way to stay positive is just always look forward. Like, where are we going? Where do we want to be? And just encourage your members that way. And even when things don't go right, you can put a positive spin on that. That's what we practice when we give speech evaluations. How do you positively encourage someone to keep getting better and pushing forward without making them feel bad about what they've just done? You're not evaluating the speaker, you're evaluating the speech and how it went. That's kind of how you're evaluating how you're working as a team in the club leadership. You're not evaluating the individual person that maybe is not holding up their end of the bargain like you think that they are or they should. Just look forward, like, hey, how can we work with what we have right now and get to the next level with the team that we have right now? Everyone has different skills, utilize them. You might be surprised.
Awesome. Well, we are at time. I want to thank so much the panelists for being here with me, and Mahi for coordinating all the questions. I think it was so valuable to hear from different perspectives because we had all different journeys. I'm having a little bandwidth issue right now. So if I could have the moderator post in the chat the link and the deadlines, d4tm.org/nominate is where you can find out about everything related to district leadership, how to nominate someone or yourself. Self-nominations are highly encouraged. If you are not sure that district leadership is for you, but you're interested in continuing your leadership journey, please reach out to me anyway and let's talk. Let's talk about what your goals are, what you want to work on, and I can point you in the right direction as to what the correct next leadership role is for you. Even if that's not district leadership, I won't take it personally. I really just love empowering other leaders and fulfilling our promise as Toastmasters of where leaders are made. And my email is kitzzy.tm@gmail.com. Although that is in the chat right now, I'm going to hand it over to Mahi to close us out.
Thank you so much, Kitzzy, Naomi, Tony, and Katrina for your insights today. And thank you to all the audience for their participation and great questions. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to contact Kitzzy at kitzzy.tm@gmail.com. We'll post it in the chat box as well. A feedback form link was provided in the chat box. Please fill out the form to tell us what you thought of the program. You may unmute yourself now and turn on your camera to thank Kitzzy and all our panel members. Please message the host if you are unable to unmute or turn on your camera. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.